For the last few weeks, I've been doing a live stream on YouTube and Facebook just as a bit of an experiment, something to try out, really, alongside my radio show and Off the Chart Radio. And I started wondering, well, I used the camera I had already, but I thought maybe I can just buy like a HD webcam, just a cheap HD webcam, just to improve the quality of the stream. And it was easier said than done, because the camera that people recommend when you're doing live streaming, as I've watched loads of videos about, is something like the Logitech C920. Even second hand, look at the prices. I mean, £52, not bad, but it won't stay at £52. I've seen them go for £70, £80. Yeah, okay, I don't believe that. $4.99. Oh, it's $4.99 just for the privacy cover. For something that's a hobby, it may become something in the future, but for something that's just a little bit of a hobby at the moment, I can't be going and spending that sort of money on a webcam. That's the sort of money I would spend on a proper camera. And then I started wondering, well, maybe then I can plug my proper camera or camcorder into a HD capture device, and the one that is recommended there as being a robust, stable device is something like the Elgato. And again, look, second hand. I'm not saying it's not worth the money, but it's not worth the money to me. $14.99, but yeah, no bids at the moment. Yeah, that's more typical of the prices I've seen them going for. Even the last generation ones go for about £72, £80, yeah, something like that. So it's just bonkers. I can't justify that sort of cost. Certainly not at the moment. I mean, if I was a full-time streamer, fair enough. Okay, let's give up on the Elgato and just get a cheap HD oh gosh, even that's quite expensive. Oh, that's more like it. Okay, so £15.20. The problem with this particular brand of HD capture card, the reviews have said that it doesn't capture in full HD. So again, I'm thinking to myself, well, I've already got a camera that's supposedly, anyway, as you'll see later, capturing in 720p. If this is only capturing in lower than 1080p, what's the point? I'm not really sure there's a point to that, but I've got to pay 60 odd, 70 odd, 80 odd quid for one that captures in full HD. So then I went back to the HD webcam idea, and I thought, okay, let's give up on the idea of getting a Logitech anytime soon and just look for basic cheap HD webcam. But even that's a minefield, because I mean, you look at listings like this, it says 1080p HD webcam. You'd think it was a 1080p HD webcam. In this case, it does give the correct resolution, but let's look at this listing here. Is it this one? So HD webcam, and the resolution is 640 by 480 pixels, which is not HD. It's 480p at best, and that's not really HD in my book. You can see 0.3 megapixels, so yeah, it's a VGA resolution camera. I'm not saying it's not a good VGA resolution camera, but it is not a HD camera, and it just made me mistrust the other listings, which may well be HD, but how do I know whether to trust them or not when an article that proudly states HD 1080p, sometimes when you go into the description, actually says 640 by 480. So I was just completely confused. Oh, there was one that was 1080p, but only did 1080p at 3 frames per second. That's just ludicrous. So I hummed and hawed for ages. For a while I just decided I wasn't going to be buying a webcam anytime soon. At least not until the prices came down considerably, or there was another flash sale or something. But then I took a punt on this one. It wasn't the cheapest, but it was definitely far from the most expensive. I nearly got tempted to buy 2 of them, and I thought, no, don't buy 2 just because there's a nice offer on. Buy 1 of them and see if it's any good first. And yeah, USB 1080p. As you can see here, it gives the correct resolution. And also it had some of the features that I was looking for based on some of the videos I'd been watching, recommending different cameras and testing different cameras against each other, such as this 90-degree wide angle. So a lot of cameras are advertised, say, as having a 72-degree angle, and maybe they don't even manage that. But yeah, it's got that 90-degree wide angle, fixed lens. There's no focusing on it, but that's okay. Again, these all match up. And they haven't made a mistake anyway, because there's a lot of them where it starts off saying 1920 by 1080p and then goes on to say 640 by 480, which got very confusing. And it's arrived, so let's have a look at it. I mean, everything looks right. Full HD webcam. The stats on the side all look right. 1920 by 1080 at 30 frames a second. Nobody's made any mistakes in that writing. And yeah, decent length of cable on it. It's meant to be 1.5 meters. I haven't measured it, but it's a good length of cable. And actually, this manual, even though it's only a one-page sort of two-sided manual, there's actually quite a lot of information on there. So yeah, it's useful. Everything checks out again. No mistakes or weird disjoints between resolutions on there, like the 640 by 480 debacle I was talking about earlier. So okay, let's have a look at the cameras. Why do they do this as well with these twisty ties? Like, there's always one short side. And I don't know, it's happening with everybody lately, so I'm not blaming this particular camera maker. But it makes it really hard to untwist it because you can never find the other end. So there we are. Minor complaint. Probably the only minor complaint I've got about this camera. So yeah, okay. Let's pull it out of that little bag. Okay, maybe one other minor complaint. It hasn't got a tripod screw on the bottom. Or a tripod screw hole. But, I mean, you could make one or you could put a sticky pad, I don't know. It was only £20, just over £20, so I'm not complaining. Hinges, really sturdy. You know, the plastic itself, you know, it's not necessarily going to win any awards for how the plastic looks, but I've never been bothered about things like that. It's sturdy enough. The hinges do not feel like they're going to fall apart, so I'm happy. Everything's really agile and yeah, it's fine. You can imagine that you could have this in lots of different configurations. It's got little foam pads in there as well that will help it grip if it's going on top of a monitor or something like that. The only thing it doesn't do is swivel side to side on those hinges. So, I mean, you know, that's a minor thing for me. I've got it freestanding. So if I want to turn the camera sideways, I will just turn the whole camera sideways. And yeah, it's perfectly sturdy. The only thing I found is it's maybe a little bit slippy if the cable is tugging on it, but maybe just blue tack it or something. So because I don't really have a plethora of cameras, or at least I don't have a plethora of streaming cameras, the fairest and the only comparison I can really do is to compare the new camera with my existing setup and see if there's any improvement. So this is the Zoom Q2N, which I'm using at the moment, and it's capable of recording in full 1080p HD. Unfortunately, it can only do that to its own SD card. When you plug it into the computer and use it on webcam mode, it drops down to 720p. But 720p is more than enough for what I need at the moment. It's just a bonus extra live stream. The more I experiment with it, the more serious I'm getting about maybe doing proper live streaming one day. Not gaming necessarily, just vlogs and things. And so it would be nice to have full 1080p to record on the computer, but I can cope with 720p for now if it means not having to buy a new camera. What I'm coping less with is the graininess, and I can see it on the screen now. It's more obvious if I turn on the chroma key. I have had it better than this as well for the actual live stream, but you can see there's graininess and blockiness coming through, and that's for two reasons. One of them is the Zoom Q2N has a really, really wide field of view, so its lens optics have a 120 degree field of view, which is crazy for a webcam setup, or at least crazy for me in here because it's a small room. It makes the green screen makes the green screen look tiny. You can see the shelves over there, you can see a bit of the window, you can even see what's on the table. So you have to reduce that field of view, and you can do that by pressing a button on the back. But because there's no moving optics, I think all that's doing is reducing the area of the sensor that it's using, and that's contributing to the noise and the increased graininess and the blockiness maybe. But a lot of the blockiness, I think, is coming from the USB interface, which I only found out recently is only USB 1.1. So it's trying to get 720p HD video down a USB 1.1 connection, probably heavily compressing it, and I think that's what's leading to what I can see on the screen right now. If you can see my eyes starting back and forth, it's because I've got two screens on the go. So yeah, that's probably why. But I've got another incentive to buy a different webcam or find a different alternative, because what happens with the Zoom Q2N, as brilliant as it is in many ways, is that when you set it to webcam mode, sometimes it doesn't work first time. Sometimes it doesn't work second time. In this case, it did work second time, but I've gone around this loop 3, 4, 5 times, and that's really not what you need when you're about to go live and you've got other things to be getting on with and other priorities, like when you're doing a radio show, and this video stream is just a backup. This loop is just, you're there, you're panicking and you're thinking, I'm going to have to abandon this completely for this show if it doesn't reset itself. But in this case, it worked second time. I haven't worked out any sensible logic for making this work first time. So I read an article that said, well, why not just use your phone? And that started me thinking, and led me on to this brilliant app, which is completely free, although there is a pro version. It's called IP Webcam, and as you can see, as I'm showing you now, you can configure everything in the browser. So what happens is your phone sets up on your Wi-Fi, and your phone gets an IP address which you can type into your web browser, and then you can log into this page, which gives you complete control over everything. You know, the zoom, cropping, stream quality, which you may need to tone down. So that's the first problem. Obviously, depending on your network setup, which isn't the app's fault, and your network strength around the house or whatever, you may need to reduce that stream quality. Now, if you reduce the stream quality, then you're introducing blockiness, so you're compensating for how good the phone camera is by making stream quality worse. But even on its worst setting, it's still better than the Zoom Q2N with all of its compression. And again, that's not a criticism of the camera itself, but the fact that it's only USB 1.1. I guess that's what was out at the time the camera was made, but it means there are a lot of compression artifacts in that. This is a lot crisper image, as you can hopefully see. And you can change between cameras there. You've got complete control over the sensor as well, so you can really fine-tune those settings to reduce the noise. And yeah, this is it with the default green screen settings. Turn it off. Just crisper image overall. It's probably a bit overexposed. I'm trying to do a fair test here, and these are just the default automatic exposure settings. But yeah, I mean, look at that. You can tell the difference straight away. The only issue I've got with this is that there is a slight time lag. And whilst it's behaving itself fairly well now, that time lag is highly variable. And again, that's to do with the Wi-Fi. I think that's not the app's fault. But, you know, I was doing things like I was doing that, right, okay, that clap will give me a time sync. And then I clap again, and it'd be a different time delay. And I was just driving myself bonkers. So I thought, okay, I'm still on the hunt for a webcam. This will do for the top 10 videos, because you can't see my mouth moving in those. But I really would like to get a webcam. I just would like not to spend £100 on it, because yeah, it's just not worth it to me. So here's the one I bought. So I've had a little bit of a play with this camera, but this is the first time I've actually tried it in OBS, and I'm really impressed with it now as I was earlier. It's doing full 1080p, no problem. Works like a charm. But I've set it to 720p for now, just to compare it to the other cameras, so it's a fairer comparison. And I've got no reason to believe that it's lying about the field of view being 90 degrees either, because it's got such a wide field of view that this green screen is just too small to fill the frame, so I've had to really pull it in behind me and crop out a little bit. So it's not actually filming a square picture right at the moment. It's doing full 16:9 widescreen. I've just cropped a bit of it because yeah, you can see the rest of the room. Let's try the green screen on basic settings, just out of pure curiosity. But already, you know, you can see this image. This is just over £20 I paid for this webcam. The image is really crisp. Possibly a bit too sharp, but I can change that. I'm really impressed. I'd say it's matching my phone, actually. There's a slight time delay, but hopefully it's a constant time delay rather than the drift that I had before. Okay, let's put the chroma key on. Okay, yeah, wow. I mean, obviously there's still green spill. I haven't done any correction to that yet, and I'm much closer to the screen now because I've had to pull it in behind me. But that's, you know, for £20, that's not too bad. How's the frame skipping? Is there any frame skipping if I move about quite fast? Okay, you can see, yeah, that's green screen blockiness there. That's just because I haven't changed any of the settings. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed with that. So I don't know if this is going to be a bit too ambitious now, but I've got the existing setup, the Zoom Q2N, and my brand new unbranded HD webcam setup, both at the same time. And I'm going to switch between them and see what happens. So this is the existing setup. Let's compare and contrast. I mean, look at that. Just over 20 quid. And the difference, well, I don't know if you're seeing the same thing as me, but hopefully you are. I don't know how much compression is going on there. But yeah, that's just, you know, it's like apples and oranges, isn't it? The difference is huge. So I'm really pleased with that. I mean, the most obvious difference is probably here on the mic. You can see these thin bits of the mic are more or less disappearing into the background. and all blocky and everything. And remember, they're both at 720p. That's what's confusing. The new webcam's perfectly capable of running at 1080p, but I'm using the same settings just for it to be a fair comparison. And I mean, you know, look at the difference there. You can see every detail on this mic stand. Okay, it's a little bit speckly at the back, but I haven't optimised the green screen settings at all. These are just the native default green screen settings. And even with those, look at it. You know, there's a little bit of speckle going on around me. Again, I haven't optimised the settings. But there's absolutely no speckle on the top here. Look at that. That cable completely disappears when on the Zoom Q2N. But on this camera, yeah. And I mean, I was commenting on the time lag, but actually I think the time lag is about the same on both. Okay, maybe there's a little bit less of a time lag on the Zoom Q2N. Let's try it. It's not really very good judge clapping. See it? Not a huge difference. Also, you might have noticed the white balance changing as I did that. Yeah, but and me going off the edge of the frame. But you can switch off the auto white balance as well. I like that about this webcam. It doesn't grey out the settings, the native settings, like some webcams do. You can turn off the auto white balance, you can change the hue and saturation and all that. It's, yeah, I didn't expect to be so impressed. I am suitably impressed. Just gotta remember not to go over there. I mean, there's nothing over there anyway, so I very rarely have any cause to reach over there. Ooh, look at that shadow. All the, the mixers over here.